Welcome! Today we're diving into a really fascinating account from our source material. It pieces together what you could call a lost epic of history, a story of vanished kingdoms and incredible prophets who literally shaped worlds.
Okay, so let's jump into our first lost epic. It all starts with this incredibly powerful figure from the ancient world, a prophet king named Melchizedek. His story is one of absolutely staggering faith and, well, some pretty surprising consequences.
You know, the source material pays him the highest tribute. He was preaching repentance to his people at a time of great wickedness. And then, something amazing happened. They actually listened. They embraced his message. And this profound change is what earned him that famous title.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source suggests he basically discovered the only perfect formula for lasting peace. And it wasn't through military power or some clever political treaty. Nope, it was a byproduct of faith, achieved simply because the people chose to be righteous.
Melchizedek's influence was so profound, so huge, that it actually led to a major change in religious tradition, one that has lasted for thousands of years and is absolutely central to this whole story.
So get this, originally, the priesthood authority he held wasn't named after him at all. It was called by this much more sacred name, one that directly pointed to the Son of God. I mean, that's a title with some serious spiritual weight.
But, out of a deep sense of reverence, the ancient church decided to change its common name. And this right here shows you just how important Melchizedek was. They renamed this divine authority after him, its greatest high priest, just to avoid using the sacred name of God too often. That's incredible.
So here's the crucial takeaway. This title, the Melchizedek priesthood, became a universally understood symbol. When someone was ordained after the order of Melchizedek, it was a clear sign to everybody that they held God's legitimate power on earth. No question about it.
Okay, so this all brings us back to Melchizedek's peaceful kingdom of Salem, which it turns out presents us with a pretty profound historical mystery. Where in the world did it go?
To really get this mystery, you have to look at the timeline. The source is very clear that Melchizedek and his righteous people were there, in the land of Canaan when Abraham was a younger man. We even know Abraham honored him by paying tithes.
But then you fast forward several decades and something really strange happens. It's time for his son Isaac to get married, and Abraham gives his servant this very specific and honestly kind of puzzling command. He says, listen, don't find a wife for my son here among the locals. You need to travel hundreds of miles back to Mesopotamia to find one among our relatives.
And that's the huge question, right? You have to ask, what's going on here? If a whole kingdom full of righteous people, Abraham's own kin, was right there in Canaan, why would he send his servant on such a long, difficult journey? Why did he act like only Canaanites were left?
The answer, according to our source material, is, well, it's pretty astonishing. It's a piece of the story that was apparently lost from the scriptural record for centuries, but has now finally been restored.
I mean, just think about that. The source is suggesting that a huge, key part of the narrative, basically an entire epic chapter of history, just went missing from the texts that were passed down through the ages.
And here is the stunning explanation. Melchizedek's people weren't conquered. They didn't migrate. They weren't scattered. No, according to this restored text, they were translated. They were taken up into heaven, just like the people of the ancient city of Enoch had been.
So just like that, the mystery is solved. The entire righteous population had literally vanished from the face of the earth. And that is why Abraham's family was left alone among the Canaanites, forcing him to look hundreds of miles away for a wife for his son. But hold on, because the story of Melchizedek's vanished kingdom, as incredible as it is, isn't the only lost epic our source material uncovers. It also reveals a parallel story, a massive migration that took place in a completely different part of the world.
Right around the same time period, another group led by prophets, who we know as the Jaredites, began an epic journey of their own. This one would lead them all the way to the American continent, completely isolated from that old world story we all know.
And you have to look at what they brought with them. This isn't just supplies. These are the actual blueprints of a civilization. An uncorrupted language? That's a direct line to the origin of humanity. The sacred records? That's a complete history from creation itself. They weren't just trying to survive, they were transplanting an entire culture to a new world.
And according to the source, they succeeded spectacularly.
They built a civilization in the Americas that thrived for more than 1,500 years. That's a history longer than the Roman Empire. A completely separate epic of kings, prophets, and wars that ended only when they completely destroyed themselves in a final, devastating civil war.
And this leaves us with a final, really provocative thought. If entire epics, stories of whole civilizations ascending to heaven or migrating across oceans to found new worlds, if they can just be lost to time, it makes you wonder, what other incredible parts of our shared human history might still be out there, just waiting to be rediscovered?